Okay. Good morning, Wellspring. Zoomland, we are going to put you on mute so you can't interrupt our service. My name is Judy Bethman, and I'm part of your Sunday service team for July 2nd. All right. Early birds are still meeting Sunday mornings at 9:30 via Zoom. Link is in the weekly email and on the website. What are you talking about? You're done with the book, aren't you?
We're going to be starting on a new book by John Paulsky, but we don't know the title yet.
Okay, once you have the title, let me know. Okay. All right, upcoming speakers for July. Today, of course, is Dr. Edward. On the 9th is Reverend Sandy. Reverend Kamatara is on the 16th. Dr. Edwards, the 23rd, and I'm searching for videos. I'm trying to wade the wheat from the chaff. So, Thursday evening group meets every Thursday at 7 p.m., and they are starting a new series with Greg Braden called Missing Links. Sounds intriguing. See Cleona or Edward for the coordinates to get on, or join us here at the social hall. Our July outing is it's 2 weeks from today, an afternoon at the Black Box. It's a play about Queen Victoria and her seclusion to the Highlands as she mourns the death of her beloved Albert. The sign-up sheet is in the social hall. Okay, the New Thought Ladies Luncheon is on summertime hiatus and will start in the fall. And lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit a request via our webpage or give it to Edward. Our prayer team meets virtually every Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. Please consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We know we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer needs no limits. I heard yesterday that in Israel they're having a drought, and they prayed, the whole country prayed for rain, and 2 weeks later, rain came. So maybe that's what we should do here in the desert. Everybody pray for rain. As we take our deep breath in, let us invite Spirit to come into that breath. And as we release that breath, let Spirit reign throughout our atmosphere, this environment here at Wellspring, and into the universe. Take a deep breath in. And release. Oh, great Spirit, Mother, Father, God, do we really love to breathe. Without our breath, we would not exist. We thank you for this glorious day, these glorious people sitting here and on Zoom, the anniversary of our country that's coming up. Let us rejoice in the fact that even though some people may not feel it, we are essentially free, not just because we live here in the United States, but we're free in spirit. As God reigns throughout the heavens, we know that we are safe, and everything is in divine right order. We thank you, and we release our intentions for having a great week ahead. And so it is. Okay, let's everybody stand up, and we're going to sing America. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, let us now do our vision, our mission, and our new affirmation for the month. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. Our affirmation: today, I know now that I am infused with unlimited possibility and that the divine supports me in all that I attempt, and so it is. All right, and now we have our special music. This song is written by Chris Foster. I don't know who Chris Foster is, but Barry found it in some New Thought book. So I had to learn a new song, which is always fun and a challenging thing. It's called What America Means to Me. Oh, say, now can you see divided nations all around? If I'd one wish, I know it'd be for love forever to abound. Over land and over sea, I am you and you are me. Shine our good for all to see. It's what America means to me. Fertile grain that feeds the land, fill every heart, every mind, with a peace divinely planned and a love for humankind. Over land and over sea, I am you and you are me. Shine our good for all to see. It's what America means to me. It's not a wish too hard to hold, or a peace too hard to see. Let truth forever now unfold, and let love be our decree. Over land and over sea, a part of you is a part of me. Shine our good for all to see. What America means to me. Gentle rain, cleanse our soul, wash our endless burning fear, quench the thirst for hate and war, let understanding reappear. Over land and over sea, quell the righteousness in me. Shine our good for all to see. What America means to me. Land of the brave, home of the free, let freedom ring eternally. Shine our good for all to see. Thank you, Barry. The reading for this morning is taken from Dr. Ernest Holmes, and it's a prayer for my country. How many of you know that he did this? Just, okay. Believing in the divine destiny of the United States of America and in the preservation of liberty, security, and self-expression, I offer this my prayer for my country. I know that divine intelligence governs the destiny of the United States of America, directing the thought and the activity of all who guide its affairs. I know that success, poverty, and happiness are gifts of freedom and are the divine heritage of everyone in this country. I know that success, prosperity, and happiness are now operating in the affairs of every individual in this country. I know that divine guidance enlightens the collective mind of the people of this country, causing it to know that economic security may come to all without the loss of either personal freedom or individual self-expression. I know that no one can believe or be led to believe that freedom must be surrendered in order to ensure economic security for all. The all-knowing mind of God contains the answer to every problem which confronts this country. I know that every leader in this country is now directed to this all-knowing mind and has the knowledge of a complete solution to every problem, and each is compelled to act upon this knowledge to the end that abundance, security, and peace shall come to all. And I know that this spiritual democracy shall endure, guaranteeing to everyone in this country personal liberty, happiness, and self-expression. And so it is. Amen. All right, it's my great pleasure to bring forward our beloved Dr. Edward and his message.
Thank you, Judy. Well, this day and age, that's quite a prayer, isn't it? So since this month, well, good morning, everyone. And those of you on Zoom, welcome. This month is pretty much dominated by the celebration of the 4th of July in a couple days here. So I thought I would speak on freedom. And the title of my talk is, How Free Are You, Really? So according to Wikipedia, freedom is the power or right to act, speak, and change as one wants without hindrance or restraint. And there's a few others, but one of the other definitions is, something is free if it can change and is not constrained in its present state. And so that's the sentence I chose to focus on today. And I'm mostly speaking about being spiritually free. However, as each of us know, our spiritual limitations do manifest in our physical world and our physical limitations to a larger or lesser extent. And so we're pretty clear what it means to be free in the physical sense. The most obvious one is that we're not in prison, right? That's pretty clear. But maybe, there are some others like having more money or a nicer job or more compatible job or a comfortable house. I mean, we can think of kind of those physical things. To be free in the physical sense, or to be free in the spiritual sense, you might go sort of to the pièce de résistance and say, spiritually free means to be pure love. Okay, so what does that mean? I mean, that's way up there. It doesn't quite say enough. That's kind of abstract. So let's talk about a few more details, maybe examples here. So I came up with some thoughts here. It says, this is from Psalms, right? Yea, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I could see how that might be free. How about everything is mine now? My needs are met to overflowing. We all like relationships, correct? So every relationship is smooth. All communication is easy, flowing, clear, and considerate. I am surrounded by loving, supportive family, friends, and community. That has a freeing thing to it. My cares and worries fall away from me. I can be myself without fear of criticism. I live in comfort. And one description, perhaps, of freedom comes from those folks who have come back from their near-death experiences. And their statement is something like, it felt like going home. So let's take a moment now. Maybe you want to put your feet on the floor or whatever, and we're going to sit quietly. And let's just see what, for us, free feels like. I used some words and some descriptions, but let's just feel free. And as we're doing this, perhaps concerns come to mind. Just tell yourself, I am free. I am no longer concerned with that. It is resolved. I am a beloved child of God who is taken care of by my supporting spirit team. I live in a universe that is for me. Or as these concerns come up, speak as Jesus did, get thee behind me. Right here, right now, all is well in the kingdom. I am free. So it is. So perhaps a few things came to mind. These things that might keep us from being as free as we want to or think we are. Certainly if something causes you to clinch, you're not free. So here's a list that I came up with, and maybe some of these occurred to you as you were sitting there a moment ago. Things that might prevent us from being as free as we wish to be or as we think we are. This clinch idea, our reaction to events or things in our life, our fears of criticism, our fears of other people, our fears of other things, perhaps our resentments, our victim story, or our wounds, of course, our limiting beliefs are obviously limiting, not free, right? How about our familial preconceptions? And lastly, the collective consciousness. And we each, I think, have our own unique combination of these 7 things, or whatever you also came up with. And I want to talk about these one at a time. there's a little bit of overlap between them, and I'll try to keep them somewhat segregated. So our reaction to events are things in our life. So if our reaction to anything is not loving or compassionate, then it's sapping our energy in some way. You know, it might be a feeling of being buffeted by the environment. Is that the feeling you had during the earlier exercise? Probably not. You felt all is well. All is peace. So you know there's a contrast between what feeling free is and something that's restricting and restraining. Of course, fairly obvious is our fears of criticism, our fears of other people, our fears of discomfort, and our fears of things. These fears keep us from expanding our reach. You don't attempt something because somebody might criticize you, you might fail, what have you. I mean, there are folks who can't even leave their home because they're so afraid of the outside environment. And I do not pretend to be a therapist to diagnose what it is they have, but that is just perhaps an extreme situation. But do we have situations that keep us from venturing outside of our comfort zone? Well, I think the definition of comfort zone is something we're comfortable with, and anything outside of it we're perhaps a little uncomfortable with, right? As I said, perhaps we're afraid that we might fail, so we don't try. Do we have situations we avoid because we think they may be uncomfortable? Years ago, I went to a social gathering of some sort, and somebody I wasn't particularly happy with, you might say we had a little bit of an issue together, and they were there. So I spent a good portion of that event doing what? But how do you avoid somebody? You've got to know where they are at all times. So when you think about avoiding somebody, you're really paying ultimate attention to them. Well, that was, kind of silly. Oh, he's in the kitchen. I can't go. Oh, he might. The whole thing. So, I was really free, right? I was in a prison of my own making. So finally I said, you know what? He's probably just as uncomfortable about me as I am about him. So the heck with it, and I just did my own thing. Shortly thereafter, he left the party. Okay, so what about number 3 was our resentments. We feel we have every right to be upset or mad about something or resentful of something or someone. Our old somebody done us wrong song. We don't want to let go of our resentment because of what occurred or that presumed slight. And, we feel very justified in holding on to that. But I would say that is keeping our energy stuck. And anything that keeps our energy stuck or blocked would not be considered freeing. And that kind of feeds into our next category, that of our victim story. Our victim story or our wounds. And of course, our victim story is usually because of real or imagined events that on behalf of others or external situations. Maybe we did have a rough childhood. Maybe someone did get us fired from a job. These are all real events to us, but what we choose to do about them is what makes all the difference in the world. By continuing to cling to our victim story or nursing our wounds, we limit our freedom. If you recall in Lord of the Rings, Gollum, when he got the ring back, Remember, he held it in his hand. It was my precious. Are we that way about our victim stories? Oh, I can't let this go. This is so good. Well, Gollum even lost his life trying to keep a hold of the ring, right? I don't know if that had anything to do with our lives, but it was an interesting story. Our limiting beliefs. We all have these and are more or less aware of them. And many times we'll defend these beliefs to a ridiculous extent. In the book Games People Play, there's a game called, he has a better name for it, but it's kind of like the yeah, but conversation. And this is when someone tries to offer a solution. Yeah, but. Yeah, I already tried that. But this, but that, but something else. You know what? If you argue for your beliefs or preconceptions, your reward is that you get to keep them. Our familial preconceptions. No one in this family has ever gone to college. We've always lived paycheck to paycheck. My parents did, I guess. Our family's never been good with money. Erase, erase. Right? So many of these become our inherited victim stories. But nonetheless, we still ascribe to them, and we still hang on to them. And then there's the collective consciousness. And this, I think, could be either local in the sense of geographic, or local in the sense of our social groups, and it can be global. So the limits of the collective consciousness are very similar to our familial preconceptions, or vice versa. But sometimes they're a little more subtle. So remember the story about the 4-minute mile? Everyone believed that running a 4-minute mile was beyond human capability. However, once Roger Bannister achieved it in 1954, many others did so. So I thought I'd look up some statistics there, and this was as of April 2021. The 4-minute barrier has been broken by how many athletes? 1,664. So this was kind of a collective consciousness thing that broke through, or we broke through. So I thought, well, here's a number of things that many people agree with. And by agreeing with them, we're just supporting what it is in the collective consciousness. You only live to about 85 years old. Or maybe 100 tops, but the last few years of your life are kind of crappy. Well, don't people believe that? Yeah. So in 1960 in Japan, the life expectancy was 68 years old. In the United States, it was 70. In 2021 in Japan, the life expectancy was 84, and in the United States, it was 80. So in 10 years, since 60 to 2021, the United States life expectancy went up by 10 years, and in Japan, it went up by 16 years. So how much of this is nutrition and lifestyle, etc., but how much of this was perhaps just the acceptance of the norms or the averages? It's hard to say. And there may be some other things that go in there about healthcare systems and so forth, but whatever. Is there some part of our health that is our responsibility? Like a lot of it, right? Not only our nutritional responsibility, but our mental, emotional state, and so much. Well, what about the spiritually evolved or spiritually aware human being? Are they restricted by the averages? Not typically. What about those who get a diagnosis of cancer and are cured? You know, we kind of have this bell curve. You've all heard about that. In the middle is the number we always tout. Well, if somebody had that, they only last 6 months. Well, over here on the end of length of living is someone who's lived 20 years after having that diagnosis. Which person is perhaps more free? The person that said, well, it was a diagnosis, but it's not a prognosis. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. This is just maybe a wake-up call, or this is an alert to my system. Okay. So what we can learn from the outliers, or start this back. I can't read my own notes here. What can we learn from the outliers, which we've just been talking about? And what might happen when a larger population becomes more aware of the outliers and today's outliers become the average? Okay? We don't have to buy into the collective consciousness on everything. Similar to this is the statistic that many die shortly after retirement. I'll get to that part. But when I worked over at NMSU, there was a not so funny joke that everybody died within 6 months of retirement, of their retiring. Yeah. Now I realize that many of us in this community have been retired for a long time and are still with us. So I think you guys are the outliers. You folks are the outliers. But the key is to maintain a healthy lifestyle and emotional well-being. Being part of a community and keeping busy with meaningful tasks, such as volunteering, contributing to the community, those all go aid in an extended life. Humans can't regrow limbs. Truth or not? Well, we know salamanders can. Yeah, but, right? They say that some children up to the age of 10 can regrow their fingertips. Humans can regrow organs. And there are ongoing studies and research which seem to indicate the possibility of regrowing limbs. What do we believe? What do we support? Now, you all know I have some grandkids. So here's one that's kind of associated with that. The terrible twos are inevitable. Not in all cultures. In some cultures, it's less dramatic or non-existent. So is that a local collective consciousness, so to speak? I don't know. How about once your body dies, you're done? Of course, we don't believe this. But if we were in a culture that didn't believe in some type of an afterlife or between life or whatever we want to say, that would be your belief, that when your body dies, you're dead. You know, until recently, near-death experiences weren't accepted by the mainstream. The first near-death experience was reported in 1740. However, it wasn't widely accepted until much later in the 20th century, after Moody wrote the book on near-death experiences, and that was in the 1970s. These are just some examples to show that many of the beliefs we hold on to are beliefs that we, or the collective, could or would actually transition out of if enough believed them to be incorrect. And as an afterthought, I threw in one. World peace is impossible. Is that a limiting belief? Is that a belief of the collective consciousness? I mean, it's a pretty complex situation, but we believe that world peace is possible. We get enough people believing it, it'll put, might not be the right word, but it'll put pressure on those who don't believe in it. And I was especially reminded of the reading. If we hold the high watch, if you want to call it that, or the light for our leaders, in a sense, we are putting pressure on them to act like adults, perhaps, rather than children. And I'm not, maybe that's a judgment, but I'm just saying is, as we hold that consciousness, they can find the consciousness in themselves to make the right decisions. In our philosophy, we say if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. Are there things you would like to achieve that you can conceive, but you can't believe they would happen? So spend some time in contemplation about them and see what comes up. What is keeping you from believing you can achieve these things? There's nothing wrong with you that you have limiting beliefs. We all have them. It's just bringing a limiting belief is just bringing to our awareness what is next on the agenda for growth. I mean, what comes up is next to do. So a lot of times we talk about how Edison attempted and failed to invent the light bulb, however many hundreds of times. But we don't talk about what caused him to conceive of the light bulb. Perhaps it was divine inspiration. Let us affirm and accept that our dreams and ambitions are also divine inspiration. And that, as we know, we believe we live in a loving universe, and we are supported in achieving these dreams. All the tools we need are within our grasp. So back to the earlier definition, something is free if it can change and is not constrained in its present state. It is our destiny to overcome any and all constraints that keep us from soaring, growing, and shining our lights brightly. And so it is. So let's take this into prayer. First, maybe go back to that feeling of free. Leave the intellect behind for a moment. Feel what this feels like to be soaring beyond the grip of earth, so to speak. Let all things less than free exit our mind. Because we know that in the midst of this is the one Spirit, divine, creative source. And this source is operating and flowing in, through, and around each and every one of us. This source is vitalizing us, is supporting us, is experiencing through us, experiencing through our hopes and our dreams, our aspirations. The divine cannot fail. As we know, their family and community members who are experiencing something that to them appears to be less than divine. We know that that too is part of the divine unfolding in their life. We know that as they examine what is going on, that in the midst of that, they see the silver lining. They feel the love. We hold the same to be true for the world. We know that in the midst of the hate for one another, for one group against another, one country hating another, that hate is just love flowing in the wrong direction. So we give thanks for this operating within our lives. We give thanks for our understanding of how it operates. And we give thanks that we are here together today and on Zoom, participating in more and greater unfolding as we allow that magnificent spirit that each of us is to flow and to be shown. So we release all of our cares and worries and everything that seems less than godly. We release it into the law, knowing that the law is operating in our good. The universe is in our favor. So we let it go and let God. And so it is. It says here we have a guest music again. Is that...
It's sort of.
Sort of. We have sort of guest music. Well,
The congregation's the guest.
hey, that sounds great. Oh, got it?
My foot fell asleep. Okay. We're going to sing God Bless America. So everybody stand. Now, most of you might not know the verse to this. What interested me was that when Irving Berlin wrote this, he wrote this in 1938. And as storm clouds gather far across the sea, isn't it sad that we still have storm clouds far across the sea with Ukraine? So you can sing this with me, this verse, if you know it. If you don't, I'll sing it for you. Okay? As the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God
Thank you, Judy. It's now time for our offering. And Rebecca is bringing that up for us. Thank you, Rebecca. We know that these offerings are what supports this community. We also know that we tithe from these offerings 10% to the larger community. We see these growing like the loaves and fishes to feed our community, to support our church, and to feed the masses. So we give thanks for these gifts, these offerings. We know that what is given comes back multiplied. We are grateful for that, and so it is. Thank you, Rebecca. We also know there are several folks who have been serving us today as part of this service. We have Barry and Judy, not only as a guest musician, but as the platform assistant. We have Edwin and Cleona in the back, taking care of the tech part of all this. We are grateful for them. We could not do this without every one of you, not only here in the audience and on Zoom, but those who have been making this operate. So next, we have our benediction, if you will stand. Oh, did I forget that, huh? Okay, well, join us afterwards in the social hall. And we will leave the Zoom meeting open just a little bit for the rest of those who are on Zoom if you want to visit with one another. Now it's time for the benediction. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world, and so it is.